Magnesium really is the anti-aging mineral. If you want to maintain your health and vitality and vigor into an older age, then you have to make sure you've got sufficient magnesium in your diet and of course that you're absorbing it. But before we get into the health complications that occur as a result of deficiencies and insufficiencies of magnesium, it's really important to understand a little bit of the background. So quite simply, magnesium is involved with more than 600 biochemical reactions in the body. So there are 600 chemical reactions, unique individual chemical reactions going on, and they rely on magnesium. Everything from energy production and the formation of what's called ATP, which is your energy cycle. So without magnesium, it can't, literally magnesium acts like a firing pin in so many cases. It can't work, it doesn't function properly. You've got glycolysis, which is the metabolism of carbohydrates, synthesis of proteins, nucleic acids, the stuff that makes up our DNA, all of those things. When it comes to proteins, it's critical for formation of collagen, which is your skin, and your tendons, critical for your bone mineral density. Forget about the calcium. Get the magnesium right first and the calcium will come. And it's also critical for the modulation or regulation of the immune system. So all of these functions are so important. But on top of that, generically across the body, it's an antioxidant mineral. So it sops up all those deadly free radicals that are caused every split second from everything we're doing in our lives, from toxins and too much sunlight, sunburn, and poor diet. It's the antioxidant mineral. It's also anti-inflammatory, which means it helps lower that inflammatory status. And there are so many conditions, all of those metabolic conditions, heart attack, strokes, diabetes type 2, diabetes type 1, all of those conditions are linked with oxidation and inflammation. So magnesium acts to actually reverse that, help protect against it. And at the end, we really know that in most cases, we are magnesium deficient. The research shows that about 2/3 of the population of most Western countries, starting off with the best results coming out of the US, but it's repeated in all of the Western countries, 2/3 of the population consume below what's called the recommended daily allowance, or in Australia, the recommended daily intake. So 2/3 of the population aren't getting enough. And there's a whole raft of reasons why that's going on. But the unfortunate thing, which you'll see in a moment, is as you age, yes, as you age, you go into a greater deficiency state for a few reasons, you'll see. But the reason we've got the magnesium deficiency, and this gives you a little bit of a hint in what you can do to reduce it and to build up your magnesium supplies. So magnesium deficiency and insufficiency. Deficiency is when it's a large amount of magnesium deficiency. There's not enough to run all of the processes in your body. Insufficiency is when there's a little bit not enough there, but you don't worry about it. But in the deficiency state, which most people are, it's seriously impacting on your overall health and well-being. And you've got the reason is we're consuming a lot of low magnesium foods. These are the processed, overcooked foods. If it's in a packet, there's a fairly good chance, if it's got a barcode on it, there's a pretty good chance that it's got low magnesium. Whereas traditionally, all your veggies, particularly your green veggies, but your nuts and seeds and all those really delicious, nutritious foods are rich in magnesium, and we don't get them anymore. So you've got the high foods like nuts, seeds, spinach, all your greens, beans, fish, all of these are high in magnesium, and yet they're low in most people's priority of eating. I quite simply have a handful of mixed nuts and seeds every single day. It's like a mini vitamin mineral antioxidant tablet that's really cheap and tastes really good. Yeah, it's got a bit of salt on it too. And so we've got all these magnesium-rich foods which are no longer consuming, but also it competes with calcium, sodium, and protein. So you're not always going to get the magnesium. Fortunately, when you have the nuts and seeds and herbs and spices and all those things, you're getting a mixture of all of those, so your body is able to work through what it does need. And then you've got a whole raft of conditions that may block it or eliminate it faster out of your body. And these include things like caffeine. So if you're drinking a lot of caffeine, by the way, caffeine, like chocolate, Coffee, like chocolate, is rich in magnesium, so it can be a source, but too much caffeine can exacerbate the loss of it. Then you've got drugs, particularly diuretics, proton pump inhibitors they use for reflux, antacids, antibiotics, a whole raft, dozens of different drugs increase your elimination excretion of magnesium. Then you've got pesticides like glyphosate, that's Roundup, which is used globally and is a contaminant of all your grains and lots of your other food out there, and other pesticides as well, block and cause you to have a magnesium deficiency. It tends towards that. So we've also got a raft of health conditions that can contribute to low magnesium, and these include obesity. So the vast majority of obesity is a result of poor eating, poor lifestyle habits, and that leads instantly to a low magnesium consumption in nearly every one of those cases. So obesity increases excretion. Kidney disease is linked with increasing excretion of magnesium, and as a result, problems with kidneys. And given that 80% of older people in Western countries have kidney-related problems, then you've got to turn this around and say, okay, is magnesium playing a part in there? Yes, it is. Then we've got diabetes and insulin resistance, gut dysbiosis. These are all conditions that lead to or increase the risk of magnesium deficiency. Stress, excess physical activity. Why do I say excess? Because when you're sweating and perspiring a lot, and that, in this case it might be saunas, like what I do exercise, I do my saunas, and I make sure every day I supplement, as well as getting a rich nutritional balance of all these nutrients and magnesium. I also supplement. And then vitamin D, if you have a vitamin D deficiency, it makes it harder for you to hold on to magnesium in your body. And of course, one of the major issues here that I'm trying to raise with everyone is that as we get older, we actually become more nutrient depleted. And this is the case for magnesium. We find something like, as we age, your deficiencies in magnesium go up. In fact, in older adults, it's something like 2 to 3 times, they're 2 to 3 times more likely to have a magnesium deficiency. And at age under 50, about 10 to 30% of the population have a magnesium deficiency. At 50 to 70, which is just where I'm on the higher end of that, it's 30 to 50%. And when you get to 70 years of age plus, it's 50 to 70% of the population have a magnesium deficiency. Why? Well, it comes down to a raft of issues. First, decreased intestinal absorption and decreased digestion in the gut, in the stomach, and then decreased intestinal absorption. So your system is no longer working as it was when you were much younger, and as a result, you're not getting as much magnesium out of the foods. Decreased bone magnesium storage. The major supply of magnesium, major storage of magnesium in our body is in our bones. And the bones, as we age and as they usually, you lose some of that bone mineral density. Magnesium is a part of losing that, so you're losing your magnesium supply, your magnesium store. Increased urinary loss, decrease of food choices. Unfortunately, as we age, not me, but as a lot of people age, they make worse and worse nutritional decisions, and this is exacerbated in some of the nursing homes where they've just fed food that has no nutrients in it whatsoever, lots of calories, no nutrients, speeding up their transition to an early death. Unfortunately, that is very true. So a decrease in food choices. As you get older, make better choices. You're smarter, you're wiser, you've got greater amounts of wisdom, and you've got me sharing with you what to do to age healthily. And finally, linked in with all that, it's not the only reasons, but linked in with all of that are pharmaceuticals. As I've already said, they can play a major role in magnesium deficiency, and as we age, people tend to be on more pharmaceuticals. And again, diuretics, proton pump inhibitors for reflux, it doesn't matter, antibiotics, antacids, a whole raft of these pharmaceuticals. And when you're on 3 or 4 or 10, or in some cases I've met people up to 20 or even 25, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Most of those people die from what's called polypharmacy. Anyway, coming back to this, we have all of these drugs which literally reduce your absorption and increase your elimination of magnesium. So as you age, it's a major factor in losing more and more magnesium, along with all of these other factors. Given the seriousness of the deficiencies in magnesium as we age in particular, all you've got to do is look at the signs and the symptoms, the serious ones and the mild ones, and realize that a lot of the aging type symptoms we get are probably linked in with magnesium. Now, is it the only cause? No, but it's such a simple one to fix, and I'll show you that at the end what you can do and how simple it is. But if you look at the mild deficiency of magnesium, these are what we call asymptomatic or non-specific. These are the general ones that, it could be anything out there, but it may be magnesium. And when you show a couple of these together, then you've probably got magnesium deficiency. And first one is asthma and airway constriction, sleep disorders, poor sleep, daytime sleepiness. Magnesium has a big role in muscle relaxation and calming of the nervous system. All of those are important for being able to get to sleep and to stay asleep. And if you wake up in the middle of the night twitching, there's another example which I'll touch on in just a moment, but magnesium is an essential ingredient for healthy, long, thorough, deep sleep. Then you've got hyper-emotionality, which is just getting upset, angry, annoyed, frustrated over anything, letting your emotions run away with you. And again, there are lots of reasons for all of these, but when you see a couple of them, you probably say, well, hold on, I probably am magnesium deficient. I'm 55, I don't eat many greens, I don't eat any greens, I don't have lots of nuts and veggies with magnesium in it, then I'm probably magnesium deficient. And these are likely explaining my symptoms. You just put the two parts of the equation together. Stress-related conditions, anxiety, then we go into memory and cognition. Your brain can't function without magnesium. It can't. It needs it all the time, consistently. Your whole nervous system. So memory and cognition, it's Alzheimer's. Wait, hold on. Well, first of all, we can reverse Alzheimer's. I followed my videos for that one. But if you're having short-term memory or you can't think clearly, or it may be as simple as a magnesium deficiency. And I certainly know people who have fixed that within days. And that's the great thing. Some of these things can happen within days, which I'll show you again later. Muscle pain and tingling is probably the first one. Muscle cramping in particular is one of the first ones, or twitching of the eyes. The eyes are going like this all the time. Stop, slow down, whatever it is. It's often magnesium, because magnesium has that calming effect on your muscles and the nervous system, and it stops that. So waking up in the middle of the night with a cramp in your calf muscle, very typically because you've been walking on it all day, magnesium deficient, and you get that cramp going. So muscle pain, tingling, anything to do with the muscles like that, it's likely magnesium. And when you put a few of these together, fatigue, general body fatigue, muscle fatigue, and headache and migraine are both linked with magnesium deficiencies. And one of the simplest strategies in migraines and headaches, but migraine research is to give people magnesium and see if it resolves over a week or two. And in many cases it does. That's probably the single best treatment for migraine. But of course, check out my videos on migraine, because there are lots of other things you can add into it along with the magnesium. So you've got all these asymptomatic, non-specific conditions. And a lot of these are what you go, I'm getting a bit old here, I'm a bit tired, muscle probably, my memory's going. We can always put them down to aging, or maybe we can put them down to magnesium and nutrient deficiencies. Then you get on to more chronic forms. These are the ones, again, widely recognized. This is all published in the scientific literature, hundreds and hundreds of journals on it. And it shows how simple some of the treatments can be. And when you go to a doctor with a condition such as hypertension, you'll be put on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 drugs. And if it's not working well, then they say you can't be treated properly, and they'll give it a funny name. Bottom line, magnesium is a major cause. Lack of magnesium and a lack of potassium is a major cause for hypertension. I'm jumping the gun here. But lots of cardiovascular disease issues, palpitations and arrhythmias of the heart. Your heart is a muscle, and the muscles need magnesium to relax, to stay calm, and to function properly. So palpitations and arrhythmias may be as simple as a magnesium deficiency. The great thing is this is very cheap, very easy to test out and see how you go. Now, my one proviso here, if you've got serious complications with the heart, don't expect magnesium to fix it. Always talk with your health professional first, as long as they know enough about nutrition too. Unlikely in most cases, but give it a go, see how it is. When you've got hypertension, lots of causes of hypertension, including stress. Major causes: insulin resistance, a high glucose, sugary, processed food diet, which, by the way, also leads onto a magnesium deficiency and a potassium deficiency, which leads to, yes, hypertension. And they'll tell you it's the salt. No, the salt is part of the equation. It's balancing out potassium. It's not salt, it's a deficiency of nutrients. In this case, we're talking about magnesium. So what a simple test, what a simple thing to look at. Atherosclerosis, the blocking of the arteries of the plaque. This is the calcification of the arteries of the plaque. And calcium and magnesium go in balance. Unfortunately, a lot of people are told to go and have calcium for the bones. It doesn't work for the bones. Only when you combine calcium with all the other nutrients, including magnesium, does it have a benefit, because the body doesn't work on dump one simple thing in and, oh, hold on. This is why when we know what deficiencies are, and as I've already said, magnesium is the major deficiency in our Western society. And so atherosclerosis, the artery plaque, strokes, heart disease, and when they did the big studies where they've looked at the populations who have heart disease, they find those with the highest levels of magnesium have the lowest levels of heart disease. And those with the lowest levels of magnesium have the highest levels of heart disease. So it's a pretty simple equation. Now, they're not the greatest studies, but because they're epidemiology, they look at big pictures, and they're comparing large populations. But when you go to the animal studies, the same things show up. And when you go to the cell studies, the same thing shows up. So we see it all layers of evidence. Then you've got metabolic illnesses like insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance, most people will think, hold on, it's to do with the sugar. Yes, that's a major. The glucose, the processed foods, the processed carbohydrates in particular are the major contributor to insulin resistance, along with stress and inflammation and all those other bits and pieces thrown in there. But magnesium also plays a role in insulin resistance. And fixing up this one simple thing, we find out with diabetes type 2, which is a follow-on and linked obviously from insulin resistance. Diabetes type 2 patients have extremely low levels of magnesium, and normal healthy individuals have much higher levels. In the animal studies, when they provide them with magnesium, the animals start to reverse diabetes type 2. There are lots of factors in there, by the way, of course, but magnesium is one of the factors. Asthma and airway constriction, which I mentioned here, increased stress-related conditions, psychiatric disorders. So we're not just going about memory now and cognition and thinking and so on. We're getting into psychiatric disorders and depression. Alzheimer's and dementia are linked with it. And nobody wants these conditions, so why don't we look at what levels of magnesium we've got? And if you're on a normal 21st century diet, there's about a 99% chance you're magnesium deficient. So you can start supplementing straight away. It's inexpensive and incredibly cost effective in terms of the outcomes that you can have, and you can measure and monitor your own. Alzheimer's and dementia, muscle pain, fatigue, fibromyalgia, which is an extreme exhaustion. And I've worked with fibromyalgia for decades now, over 40 years. We have people coming in to our research laboratory, and they said it was almost impossible to get up just to get into the lab to go out again to give an interview about what's in their home and what may be contributing to it. In those days, we looked at a lot of the factors, what we call indoor air and the indoor environment, and factors that were causing conditions, health conditions. We did lots and lots of surveys on those in the early days. Bone fragility leading to bone mineral density, which I've mentioned earlier, low bone mineral density and the risk of fractures and breaks and so on. And sarcopenia is the loss of muscle mass. And all of these conditions we just put down to old age. We're getting older. And I look around, I'm going, no, you're probably having a 21st century diet and lifestyle, which is leading to magnesium deficiency, other nutrient deficiencies, stresses in your life, and all of these conditions. All these health conditions then translate into the hallmarks of premature aging as a result of magnesium deficiencies. So we see all of those as being signs and symptoms. And typically, Magnesium lowers inflammation and oxidation. These are the two driving forces of all the forms of chronic illness and for premature aging. So you want the magnesium in there to reduce the oxidation and the inflammation, as well as all those other goodies and nutrients you get out of healthy foods. Chronic disease is one of the forgotten signs of premature aging. We are not supposed to get all of these conditions. Insulin resistance. Magnesium helps stop insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is a driver for diabetes and Alzheimer's, which you'll see in my video coming up. So all these chronic illnesses, magnesium can help along the way. It's not the only solution. There's obviously diet and lifestyle factors, but it's a factor in there. And because it's such a simple one to implement, it's, for me, what I'd call a no-brainer. And then we get on to aging skin, elasticity, wrinkles. Yes, magnesium helps with the formation of your skin and your bones, and therefore helps with the elasticity, and it keeps it younger. Your sensory functions, as we age, we often see vision, hearing, and taste loss, and magnesium can help maintain these. Then you've got cognitive function, which we've already highlighted. As it starts to decline, we assume that it's a normal process of aging. Yet I know people in their 90s who are incredibly alert and alive in their brain. Their cognitive functions are at absolute top performance still because they look after themselves. They don't get the nutrient deficiencies. They don't get all of those issues in there to do with poor lifestyle, and they look after themselves. Then we've got fragility and mobility. We become more frail, and magnesium plays a major role in stopping that fragility. Again, it's a no-brainer. Muscle and bone loss, telomere length. Now, telomere length is one of the scientific measures of how long you're going to live. In other words, it's a little predictor. I've talked about it many times in many of my other healthy aging videos. That's what I call the little rubber bands at the ends of your genes that when they split up and so on, and the shorter they get, the prediction is there's less years to live. So the longer they are, the better it is. The shorter they are, less years to live. And magnesium has been shown in animal studies at least to increase telomere length. And then finally, one of the big hallmarks for all of us is the quality of life. Magnesium adds to the quality of life. When you're getting rid of that fatigue and you're increasing your alertness, then all of these things around you, you're getting over the bronchial coughs, the asthma coughs, when you're getting over all of those conditions that I've highlighted. And yeah, it may be magnesium and it may be other things, but again, it's a no-brainer. So here are these hallmarks, and magnesium starts to improve all of these and many, many more. So then the big question is, what do I supplement with? It's a pretty simple one. When it comes to how much, I say follow the instructions on the containers. But there are lots of different types of magnesium, and magnesium is bound with other molecules so that it has different benefits and different effects. And if we want to, first of all, let's say we just want to increase magnesium levels. Now, there was a stage in my life, not too long ago, I was magnesium deficient, and I knew I got the cramps, I got twinging eyes, I had muscles shaking when I was working out at the gym. A whole raft of other things were going wrong there. And I looked into it and said, okay, what do I do to increase my overall magnesium in the body? And there are three molecules of magnesium, three types of magnesium that you can use. Magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate, magnesium malate. Now, these are different types of magnesium supplements, so you just have to go and read the label. Glycinate, for example, is the typical one. It's very mild on the stomach. If you use some of the other ones, it can cause a lot of irritation and, of course, diarrhea and so on. But glycinate, it's mild on the stomach, it's easily absorbed into the body, you get about 40% absorption. It's good for sleep, anxiety, muscle cramps, and it has a very mild, if any, laxative effect. You have to consume a lot to cause a laxative effect, which is a real win-win. So that's glycinate, also called bisglycinate. Then you've got citrate and malate. If you're looking for one to increase your magnesium levels stores in your body, which is primarily in your bones, then you're after a combination, one of those or all three of those. And the time frame to build up that store in your body is usually 2 to 3 months. So it's 2 to 3 months of supplementing on a regular basis, eating healthy magnesium foods, and then maybe lowering it, slowing down a bit, but you'll feel the effects of it, so you may keep supplementing or not. Then we go into sleep and anxiety, and as I've already said, magnesium glycinate is the best one for sleep. Now, when you get a mixture of magnesium glycinate, you will also often have lots of other things put in there. A couple of amino acids, taurine. You'll have some other minerals put in there. You'll have some herbs, some passion flower. Look at the different ingredients. And this, for supplementing for sleep, you take it somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour before sleep. Now, that has the benefit of helping with sleep, muscle cramps at night time, but also helping build up the amount of magnesium in your body. So, and then you've also got an option there of magnesium taurate for sleep and anxiety. And then when it comes to muscle pain and fatigue, now these are all going to help with muscle pain and fatigue anyway, but it's just which area you want to focus on and concentrate on. Then your muscle pain and fatigue, you've got magnesium malate, you've got sulfate. This is magnesium sulfate, also called Epsom salt, and I put external in brackets there because that's the one you soak in a bath. So when you want to improve your magnesium levels and get rid of those muscle cramps quickly, set up a nice warm bath, put in some Epsom salts, some magnesium sulfate crystals. And employing things like that, it'll take about 1 to 8 weeks to get rid of the muscle pain. Now, it can happen straight away. If I know from personal experience, if I get some muscle cramps and I start supplementing, 1 to 2 days, the muscle cramps disappear. Okay, I'm just giving a longer perspective here to make sure you then want to build up the reserves and up the supply. Now, if you're sweating a lot, working out, and sweating a lot, perspiring, going to the sauna, then you may need to make sure you keep that regular routine of supplementing up. Then you want to increase your brain and cognition. We're getting a little bit older, a little bit slower in the mind. You think, okay, I want to use the best one that's going to be most effective for my brain and my mind, and that's magnesium L-threonate. Now, magnesium L-threonate, it's absorbed very well, and why it's so good for the brain is that it's able to get across the little outer cover of the brain called the blood-brain barrier. That's there to make sure only the good nutrients get in and the toxins can get out, and the toxins can't get in. And anyway, so L-threonate, it's good for the brain, it improves cognitive function and memory, and can help with anxiety and mood. So if that's your major focus there, anxiety, mood, concentration, anything there, depression, it can help there. And the time frame there, again, we're looking at 1 to 8 weeks. But for some people, of course, this can start to happen straight away. And the great thing is, like all of these, it will build up to the reserve magnesium levels that your body has. Now, your body will be able to get magnesium into your brain if you're using these other ones as well, because magnesium, it needs magnesium. It has a mechanism to actually help carry magnesium into your brain. But this one just speeds up the process. For your heart health, cardiovascular conditions and so on, you want to make sure you can help with the palpitations and arrhythmias and so on, and taurate and orotate. Orotate is very highly absorbed. It's great for the mitochondria, which is the energy systems of the body, energy systems of the cell. And again, that will help body-wide because your heart is just another big, incredibly effective muscle. And it helps with muscle metabolism. It helps with athletic performance and generally just energy levels around the body, physical energy levels. So that's orotate, but also with taurine. And of course, the bottom one I put down here, constipation. The constipation, if you've got constipation, I have great videos for you to watch in terms of what you can do for lifestyle dietary factors. It's not just magnesium, but they will use magnesium if you're going in for any intervention to do with your gut. They will often give you one of these magnesium oxide and magnesium sulfate and citrate to speed the process up of going through your body. And that can take anywhere from 3 to 12 hours. So be prepared for it going through. And as I said, they give you that before you have to go in for an investigation into your digestive system, where they put cameras up and have a look up and down. So here is a kind of an option of what you can do and where you can go. There's a lot of information on all of the videos. I try to give you some solutions. Make sure you tick the boxes. Also tick the little all box for the in the notifications, so that when I publish my next video, you get a little reminder to say, hey, there's another great video by Peter Dingle, check it out. So tick the boxes, share this with your friend, and let's share the information.